Hello YouTube, and welcome to another one of my vacuum cleaner reviews. And the subject that we're going to be discussing today, as you can see, is another vintage cleaner. This one is the Hoover Junior. I've done one of the Hoover Junior before. That one was a later model. It was the 1346A, the one with the green cover on the front, but this one here is the 1346. This one was the original 1346, which it was launched nearly 50 years ago. So this machine is much older than I am. Well, it's a little bit older than I am. This machine was made, according to the label in the front, in March 1967. So it's nearly 49 years old, this machine. It's one of the oldest machines I've got. I've got a 652A upstairs that's a little bit older than this, but in view of the fact that it's nearly 50 years old, it is in staggeringly good condition. When I found this on eBay a couple of years back, I couldn't believe what I saw, because this particular model is actually quite rare. There's not many of these around. Is that what it was is that when they first came out, they had the orange cover plate on the front, and that was exclusively only available in the early part and mid part of 1967. So they had this on right from launch. It was supposed to be a replacement for the 1334, which carried on running a little bit after this was launched, but essentially it was an all-new model, the 1346. It had this orange cover plate on with the brown bag, and the technical name for it was pumpkin and seal greige. That was the name they gave to this sort of browny beige colour that the base was. Now after several months in 1967, they got rid of that orange cover plate, and they made it brown. So the majority of them after that all had the brown cover plate on, right up till 1970, when it was replaced by the 1346A, which had a green turquoise cover plate on. And then they went to navy blue after that. There were subtle differences between this and the 1346A, which I shall go into as we go through the video. But between 1967 and 1970, there was 4 releases of this particular 1346. The Phase 1, the Phase 2, Phase 3 and the Phase 4. Phase 1 was this one. Phase 2 was exactly the same, but it had the brown cover plate on, which was this part here. It made it the same colour as the bag. And then as we went along, there was another couple of subtle differences that they made to it, and I'll go into that when we've got the camera off the tripod. Okay, so I will get that down now, and we'll start looking at this in close-up. Right, okay, so here we are then with the top of the handle. Now, it was only a very, very short cleaner, this was. It was ideal for the little lady, and I think people were generally shorter in the 1960s. I don't think they were quite as tall as we are today, but my grandma used to have one of these cleaners, and she used to love it. And she was only about 5 foot tall, and she used to go on just well with it. So we've got the handle there. Everything is in such really, really fantastically good condition on this cleaner. There's very, very few scratches, as we can see. It's even still got the original cable, and I would have said there's a good chance that might be an original plug as well. It really has been very, very, very little used, this cleaner. I suspect it's probably been in somebody's cupboard for years and years and years. But there we go. As I pan the camera around it, we can see it's got very, very little scratching on it. And then we can see the bag, and I mean the bag was rather dirty when I had it, so I did have to wash this one in the sink and give it a damn good clean up, because it was rather grubby. I mean, considering it hadn't been washed in probably nearly 48, 47 years, it wasn't doing too badly. So there we go. There we've got the top cable hook. And on these ones, they didn't rotate like they did on later machines. It was a fixed hook, top and bottom, and they were made of metal. It was only a very short cable. It was about 5-6 metres, because in those days they didn't have massive big rooms like we have now. You know, it was your sitting room and your living room and your dining room, each individual room, so they didn't really need massive long cables. Going down the bottom here, we can see the pedal release there, and there's the cable going into the back of the cleaner. On the side, we can see the on-off switch there. On the back here, what was called the bag flange. Now that was taken straight off the 1334, that idea. So you could undo this screw here, and that would lift away. I can, if we just, I don't know whether I tighten this up with a screwdriver, but I can't get that undone. But if you undid that, that would pull away, and you could take it away and empty your bag. On the later model, which was the Phase 3, I believe, which was 1968, 69 sort of time, they did away with that, and it became as it is on the later Juniors without that screw. So, what we're going to have to do, if I open the bag up now, and we'll show you the inside of there, how that works. Again, as with all Juniors of the time, it was a bottom fill bag and paper bag there. I just undo the zip right to the top. It's a generic bag, obviously H1, it hasn't got Hoover written all over it. We can see the bag flange there in the bottom, with the notoriously tricky little rubber band that you have to slide the bag down onto the chute and slide the rubber band up. And now you see the bag bellows in the bottom. I don't know whether they're the originals, but they weren't split, they were in rather good condition. So I just put that down there while I zip back up. There we go. Now if we turn the cleaner around in the front, we just take the cover plate off there and focus in on the front there. We can see the spindle inside and the belt, and there is the faceplate there and the ratings label, and we can see that is a 1346. 703 means it was made in March 1967, and incidentally that was the very first time they used the dating technique on the serial number. Before that it used to be like JT and JS with the serial number afterwards. But this was the very first instance of when they had the year followed by the month after the model name for the serial number, and there you can see it was made by Hoover Limited, Great Britain, and it was just 250 watts. It didn't have a lot of power back in those days. Right, now if I turn it over, what we can see, the base of the cleaner there, it had the twin height adjusters here, and you can see there position 1, and you could move it across by snapping it forwards onto position 2. So it had twin heights, but you had to turn it over to do it. The later model, which was the 1346A, had the little wheel on the side here which you could turn to raise the cleaner up and down. There's a sight on the early models like this, it was done from underneath. And there we go, it was spring loaded wheels there. Wide front wheels and small narrow little back wheels there. And there we can see the bottom cover over the motor. I've had all this to pieces. All the motor was cleaned out, stripped down, and looks remarkably good inside. The brushes have still got good length to them. As we turn it round here, we can see there This was the famous beta bar, as they used to call it in those days. You can see the beta bar there, and as we turn it round there's another one on the other side there, and these were your brushes here. They were all fully replaceable, these brushes, when they wore down. One of the things about these machines was that when they were broke down, you'd take them and have them repaired. You wouldn't just dash out and buy a new one like you do in this day and age. That used to pull forwards like so to enable you to get to the belt. To change the belt on one of these, if I just what we do is we would first of all take it off the spindle like that, and then make sure this is focused in. We would grab hold of the belt, give it a good pull, and there we could see the brush roll was out of the cleaner. Very, very easy. And you put your new belt around it like that, and then it would slot back in. There we go, that's it. So then we'd push that shut on there, turn it over, and then we could put our belt in. It would only go in one way around, up on your fingers, over the spindle like so, and there we go. That was how easy it was to change the belt. So I put the cover plate back on there. So what we had with these, if you wanted to use the tools, was this toolkit, the Hoover model 1335A, and this was what we'd use. And it consisted of a good quality there. This is very heavy actually, the hose itself. This is the part that used to go in the front of the machine. There's your angles part there. There was the dusting brush, upholstery tool. Yeah, very good quality that. And this was your crevice tool there. It had the pip fitting on it there. The extension rod, and that would just go into there, and the pip would click in, and then you put the tool on the end and all that would click in as well. So that was rather simple, that was. Now what it had was a little converter. Let's just make sure the camera's still focused on that. It is. Take the front off, and then put the belt lifter tool into the window, turn it all the way around. It's very, very similar as on the Kirby. If you've ever had a Kirby, the way you turn the front round like that and it lifts the belt off so that they can put the take the head off. Similar sort of method with that belt lifter. And then this would push in there like so. And it was now set up to work with the tools. So I can do is to plug it in and turn it on, and we'll just hear what it sounds like with the tools in. Okay, right then. So now we've got it all plugged in, I can turn it on. I'll just get those out of the way. And this is how we'd have cleaned above the floor back in the olden days, back in the 1960s. Here we go. there we go. There was not a lot of suction on the end of that hose, I'll tell you that now. There was no such thing as turbo brushes back then. This was all it had. It wasn't wonderful, but it was the best that Hoover could do at the time. So to take it off, we would just pull this out, turn the belt lifter all the way back round again, in the opposite way to what I did before. Remove that, and it left the belt back on the spindle. There we go, it was as easy as doing that. So, that was the tools for the Junior. I just put those out of the way. And we'll have a push round with it now. Well, there we go. What a lovely cleaner. It still works absolutely beautifully after all those years. So there we go. That's the little demonstration there. It doesn't get used very often, this doesn't. It tends to sit upstairs with the collection. I don't store it with the belt attached, I always take that off. It always makes the belts last longer if you leave them on the spindles when it's parked and not being used. They do tend to stretch. So this will be going back upstairs now to join the rest of them. And next year next March, it'll be celebrating its 50th birthday. I can't believe it myself to look at this machine and think this is nearly 50 years old. It's just staggering how fast time goes by. When I look at this little Hoover Junior, I remember these, that my grandma had these in the 1970s. Just about everybody of a certain age, that generation would have probably had a Junior at one time or other. You know, if you were in your, I don't know, I suppose you'd have to be in your 70s now to remember these. It's incredible, you know, to think that this was what we were using nearly 50 years ago, and it's still got the original cable on, the original plug, I would have thought. It's got the original outer bag, and it still works as good now as it did in 1967. It's a testament really to how well things were made back then. But you know, a lot of Juniors did die, and I've had quite a few of these that I bought on eBay that have been scrap, and they've been used for salvage parts so that I can get others working. And the biggest problem I had with them was motor bearings going. And once the bearings go on the motor, they make a dreadful squealing noise, the motor slows down and they just smell horrible of burning. But this one's absolutely fantastic. I'd say it's not being used much. Let's put the cable back up and we can finish the video. Okay, it didn't take very long on here because it was only, you could see when I had it full stretch over the other side of the room, that was all the cable it had from the socket there, just to the other side of the room. There was no 10-metre cable with the Hoover Junior. If you wanted the bigger one at the time, you would have to have, let me see, in 1967 it would have been the 652. I think it would probably have been the green version of it, like oh god, what was the name of that green they gave it? I'm sure one of the people leave it in the comments. I think Alex has had one before of the 652 that was around then. As I say, 1334 was around this one, but this was the cutting edge technology, 1967, the Hoover 1346. There's not really much else I can say about it because, as I say, it's a simple machine. It doesn't have many features. It was solely there to do the cleaning. It wasn't brilliant at picking up heavy bits of grit. They would tend to get stuck in the brush roll area and drop back out again. But, nevertheless, it was a part of my history, and they were a hugely, hugely successful cleaner back in the day. So until next time, I shall say goodbye for now.